These days, it seems that everywhere you go, there's at least one person in sight with a cell phone to their ear. People may be on the road, in the store, or even in places that cell phones have banned, such as the movies or concert halls. So, as the number of cell phone towers, and other wireless antennas increase in industrialized nations, should you be concerned about the effects of exposure of radiation? I know I am. But, if you're not concerned about the effects, then I suggest you take some time and view Public Exposure, DNA, Democracy, and the Wireless Revolution. This is a documentary that shows an overall look at the connection between radio frequency radiation and human health. Over the past 10 years, throughout the world, cell phones have erupted and are still on the rise. It is estimated that close to 200 million people in the U.S. have cell phones and well over 1 billion worldwide. This means that any given time, there are large amounts of phone frequencies over the airwaves exposing us to radiation. Wireless antennas, broadcasting antennas, and cell phone towers are all contributors to this ongoing problem that we face today. Even if you don't realize it, people, it's there. In many European countries, they actually started to create standards for human exposure to radio frequency radiation, while in Scotland, towers are not even allowed to be located near hospitals, schools, and homes. Now, the reason that this is becoming such a big issue is that researchers are discovering that regular exposure to radio frequency radiation is interfering with the electrical fields of our cells, causing the risk of brain cancer. With this discovery, many of the challenges have been linked to radio frequency radiation, such as abnormal cell growth and damage to cellular DNA, difficulty sleeping, depression, anxiety, childhood and adult leukemia, eye cancer, attention span deficit, memory loss, and infertility. All these cases are something to think about when making that phone call to the movie theater, to hear the listen to the playlist instead of maybe picking up a newspaper, or that innocent call calling up Uncle Billy to chat about last night's basketball game. These things all can be simply avoided for the better health of you. But this is not just a case for adults, but for children as well. Times have changed, and more kids are acquiring phones, whether it's to keep in contact with their parents or just for an emergency, which is fine, but even a lot of the time, without the parents knowing, children are using their cell phones right before they go to sleep. Parents must keep watch of their children's cell phone usage because children are at a much higher rate than anyone. With children, they experience more health problems when exposed to radio frequency radiation for the fact that they have a much thinner and smaller skull. This translates to greater absorption of radio frequency. Many studies have been done, sponsored by mobile phone companies themselves, which shows that people using handsets before bed take longer to reach the deeper stages of sleep and to spend less time in them, interfering with the body's ability to repair damage suffered during the day. These studies also find that children and teenagers, most of whom use the phone before bed, don't get enough sleep, which in turn leads to mood and personality changes, ADHD-like symptoms, depression, lack of concentration, and poor academic performance. Now, parents, we don't want that, do we? No. First of its kind, a study was done by top scientists showed that pregnant women using phones 2 to 3 times a day was enough for their babies to develop hyperactive and difficulties with conduct, emotions, and relationships by the time they reach school age. It also showed that developing mental problems are much greater if the child himself uses a phone before the age of 7. And the likelihood of that is quite possible. Not only are cell phones affecting our lives with health problems, but it's also starting to affect our national security. These days, with the way technology is evolving, it's not a surprise to see weapons made to look like phones. But long after 9/11, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security and the FBI started to find cell phones made into a .22 caliber pistol. a phone gun capable of firing 4 rounds just by the touch of a keypad. Stunned by the discovery of these decoys, European law enforcement are implementing systems to X-ray all cell phones throughout airports. Involving cell phones, this is just another worry for us to deal with. Carry on. Many speculations say that the danger of cell phones does not come from real or perceived potential to develop cancer, but from an intentiveness while using a cell phone. Now, this can be considered for the fact that we all have seen vehicles driving somewhat erratically down the road, and as soon as you drive near the vehicle, you realize the person's driving and talking on a cell phone. Well, now, it has been proven that drivers on a cell phone are less attentive and more likely to get into an accident. While there are hand presets, some people do believe that this is the answer to the problem, but you gotta consider, yes, it does free up both hands, but the person is still occupied with the conversation and therefore less attentive to what is going on around them on the road. Recently, Forbes magazine released an article that included statistics showing that reaction time was down by 9% for those who use cell phones while driving, and 50% of visual surroundings are not even absorbed or processed while driving. All these conflicting reports that I have given make a person wonder what they should do. Well, so, yes, think about it, folks. Take in what you like, and even question it. I spoke to you about this today for the mere fact that by increasing your knowledge and public awareness of these issues, we as a whole can stand a much greater chance of municipal, state and provincial, and federal governments to do a better job on regulating the placement of cell phone towers, antennas, or even enforcing more laws for cell phone safety. Thank you for listening, and I hope this speech sparked an interest.